Okay, connection is good. Hi guys. Uh, right. So we're going live now. Mm. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of CampusCare Debate, an exclusive platform where top schools of India battle it out with each other to express their viewpoints on burning topics related to education as well as society. So today we have different schools and different representatives from all across India. But before I go over there, let me quickly introduce you to our jury. So we have Sanjay Dewangan sir from Wisdom Global School Haridwar. Sanjay sir, over to you, a few words of motivation for our students.
Okay, thank you, Anso. It's nice to see you again in this virtual platform, and best of luck to all the students. It's a kind of a participation, and you have to participate with full enthusiasm. You all have a very good, knowledge, talent, and I know that you are going to exhibit your thoughts, ideas on the topic, and very decently. And then you need to take care of your timing. Timing is very important, otherwise you'll be having a negative mark. So, best of luck to all of you, and I hope that every one of you will keep come forward to keep your words, keep your ideas with full energy, full enthusiasm, and you will be claiming yourself that you are the only winner. Okay, so best of luck to all of you.
Thank you so much for the lovely words, sir. And absolutely, as sir suggested, that you need to come out with full enthusiasm, with full fire. Let this one be a fiery debate. So, the next jury member who was supposed to join us was Mrs. Alka Shrivastava, but unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, she is unavailable right now. We will not be, I will make it a point that if she comes in between and she joins us virtually, I'll let her enter. But till the time, we are under the able leadership and capable hands of Sir. So, no need to worry. Let us quickly move forward and introduce the contestants with you. So, our first contestant is Nandita Sharma. Nandita, could you please introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nandita Sharma, and I'm from Convent of Jesus and Mary, Dehradun.
Wonderful, Nandita. Our next contestant is Manjyot. And Manjyot, would you please introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. I am Manjyot Saini from Woodland Overseas School, Hoshiarpur, Punjab. We'll be discussing my views against the motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manjyot. I love the confidence. Good job. And next we have is Manreet. Manreet, over to you.
Very good evening to everybody. My name is Manreet Grewal and I'm representing Woodland Overseas School, Punjab, Hoshiarpur, Punjab, and I will be presenting my views for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manreet. I have a very special connection with Hoshiarpur. My childhood friend is from Hoshiarpur. So I feel very connected to the place, to all the charms and everything that are there. So yeah. All right. Next we have is Adya. Adya, over to you.
Good evening, one and all present. I am Adya Jasola from Convent of Jesus and Mary, Dehradun, and I am elated to be a part of such a treasurable discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adya. Next we have Anushka.
Good evening, everyone. I am Anushka Singh from Laurels School International, Indore, Madhya Pradesh, and would be expressing my views against the motion.
All right. And last but not the least, we have Ishita, who just left. There must be some technical glitch. Um, well, okay. So when she joins, she will join us back. So now I'm sure everybody would be waiting. What is the debate all about? So first, let me quickly go over with the rule, or let me quickly introduce you to the topic of the debate. It is restriction on freedom of speech justified? There's so much political turmoil all across us, and I'm sure none of us, we have students from Punjab as well who has been an ardent supporter of farmers protests, and there's so much political turmoil that has gripped our country at this point of time. So we thought that this would be an appropriate topic to be debated on. Is freedom of speech, or is the restriction of freedom of speech? First of all, are there any restrictions? Or we'll discuss about that, and even if they are, then are they justified? So let me quickly go over with the rules of the debate. Every contestant will get 5 minutes to speak on the topic. The speech must not exceed 5 minutes. After the participant finishes their speech, the floor will be open for interjection. And guys, also this time it mentions here that the cross questioning is not allowed, but I will allow you to cross question once. So I want to know what we can come up with in this debate. Speaking out of turn or any misbehavior can lead to immediate disqualification. The decision by the jury will be deemed final. So, before we begin, let me quickly introduce Alka ma'am. She has joined us via her cell phone. Hi, Alka ma'am, over to you. Alka ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, but your voice is very weak.
मैम मेरी आवाज धीरे होना तो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है मैम इफ यू प्लीज ट्राई टू इंक्रीज द वॉल्यूम ऑफ योर फोन then I guess that would do the trick.
I have done that. I have done that.
Really? Ma'am, I have always been pointed out as if I have a very loud voice, but मेरी voice धीरे होना तो बहुत मुश्किल है. I'm sure संजय सर को पता होगा मेरी कितनी दबंग आवाज है. So, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a little. Yes.
Ma'am, please introduce yourself and few words of motivation for our kids.
Okay. A very good evening to all the participants here, my co-jury member and the organizers of this event. I'm very happy to be here, and I would like to introduce myself as the principal of Vatsalya Senior Secondary School, which is located in Sagar in Madhya Pradesh. And it's a pleasure to be one of the jury members on this event, because all kinds of co-curricular activities, and especially these like debating and the extemporaries and the recitations, have always been a great subject of my interest, and I am really looking forward to having a very nice session with all of you young children in today's event. So all the best to each one of you. Do not fear the mic. I'm sure you are prepared with the topic. It's a wonderful topic. Do not fear the mic. Speak your heart out. Use whatever best words come to your mind instantaneously so that you don't lose confidence. And speak your thoughts well entwined with the language. So all the best to each one of you. We are looking forward to a very nice debating session this evening. Thank you.
All right. And on that note, let me also introduce what we do. We are a 20-year-old company engaged in providing school ERP, CRM, and mobile apps to the top schools of India, which helps transforms them from good schools to best schools. Entab, now you must be wondering why an IT company is holding events like these. So we understand that there is a need today because kids are locked down, and we have taken, Sanjay sir has been there associated with us in quizzes and debates. So all these activities we are doing as a gesture towards the community for the holistic development. So now before we move forward, we have Ishita here with us. She has joined us back. Ishita?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just having some technical issues.
No problem, Ishita. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Ishita Goyal from Laurels School International, Indore, Madhya Pradesh, and I will be speaking for the motion.
Hello. Thank you so much, Ishita. I'm so sorry, I just got a call from somewhere, so my bad. All right, so now let's the debating begin. So for the motion, my first contestant is none other than Nandita Sharma of Convent of Jesus and Mary, Uttarakhand. Nandita?
Yes, sir.
Where are you? Yeah. The stage is all yours, sweetheart. You may begin.
Thank you, sir. I quote, asking for absolute rights is not a crime, but asking for a right that is being manipulated and misused in the name of freedom, which eventually leads to a crime, is a crime in itself, unquote. A very pleasant evening to our honorable judges, my fellow participants from across the country, and greetings to the House at large. Today, I, Nandita Sharma of Convent of Jesus and Mary, Dehradun, will be proposing my views on: is restriction on freedom of speech justified? And I vehemently support the motion. Consider our freedom of speech and expression as a nation and the restrictions being imposed as our international borders. Unattended and unarmed borders lead to clash of clans, bloodshed, and cold relations with the neighboring country. Freedom of speech is a principle that supports the freedom of an individual or a community to articulate their opinions and ideas without fear of retaliation, censorship, and legal sanction. Whereas restricted freedom of speech is a parameter introduced in the interest to protect and preserve morality, sensitivity, and to promote awareness using the right concept of words and thoughts. Every Indian has the right to freedom of speech, but not in the absolute sense. And when I say absolute sense, I mean that citizens are subjected to certain curtailments which are legitimate and justified. With this, I introduce the very first construct of my argument: loose tongues are worse than wicked hands. Freedom of speech is a reflection of our cognitive maturity. It reflects your clarity of thought and your perspective towards the world. To put things in a nutshell, the tongue speaks what the mind thinks. And if we address issues of grievances, historical significance, or public importance without understanding the sensitivity of the issue being raised, one goes on to ruffle an ostrich's tail. Sometimes an entire flock of ostriches. And before you know it, my dear friends, you are being chased down by the heaviest flock of birds, the Indian media. Ladies and gentlemen, now moving on to my second construct. India is a religiously diverse country with 33 million deities, 844 dialects, and 15 major languages. One has to understand the power and dynamics in our society. Freedom of speech is often used to scar legacies, cultures, traditions, religious beliefs and practices. For instance, Nandita Das's creation, Firak, a 2008 cinematic work that allegedly stigmatized and targeted the events of Gujarat massacre in 2002, was banned from cinemas. Let's take another example. Ratna Pathak's Dazed in Doon, a 2010 work slightly malign in nature, is said to defame the prestige and legacy of the titled school. Due to lack of boundaries and curtailments, unrestricted freedom of speech is mostly bound to unprocessed opinions on the basis of their interpretation, legibility, and intensity. Ladies and gentlemen, being the big fat Indian family that we are, unfiltered speech triggers mass retaliation, leading to uproar of riots, rampage, and massacres in worst case scenarios. Be it the Bhagalpur violence, or the Nadia riots of 2015, or the Kalyachak riots of 2016, to as recent as Bangalore riots of September 2020. These are some of the worst communal and religious riots that were instigated due to unattended speech. Violence now brings me to my third construct: spare the rod and spoil the child. Pretty self-explanatory. India is a country that's urbanized, progressive, and is bubbling presently with a population of 138 crore with a literacy rate of 77.7%. And as it's said, there is a thin line of difference between someone who's educated and someone who's literate. Thus, lack of direction and consequences lead us to a state of insanity and offense. Today, you and I sit here and debate about whether restriction on freedom of speech is justified or not. But someone out there who is unaware about the implications of his or her word, or on an individual, or at a group of people, or at a community, does no justice to the freedom rightfully being entrusted upon him or her. Absolute freedom of speech, my dear friends, is like a double-edged sword. If you want the right to absolute freedom, you have to be that educated, ethical, and moral enough to know how well to use those rights. In the end, I'd like to ask you, Would you listen to someone scarring your race of faith, throwing words that are too obscene and delivered without any sense of boundaries? Or would you rather listen to someone constructively criticizing your faith with discretion and with respect of your attachment with that belief? With this, I rest my case. Thank you, but not my words.
Wonderful. Quite powerful words and a quite sensible, arguments of judgment. Um, quite impressed. Actually flabbergasted by it, to be honest. All right. So now I'll open the floor for interjection. Would anybody like to interject? Remember, there are points for interjection. Anybody, please raise your hand. Yes, Manjyot.
Hi Nandita, you talked about banning certain kind of movies that were, I understand your point, were banned on certain grounds of hurting sentiments of certain groups. But do you think that banning such a thing would actually give the message to the director why it was banned? Because I believe the person made it assuming it's correct. So what do you feel about banning? It would actually bring a long-term change or no?
And what do you have to say about that, Nandita?
With due permission from the moderator, I'd like to answer my worthy opponent.
Yeah, please do.
First of all, thank you so much, Manjyot, for your beautiful question. I think not answering this question would be like not addressing the elephant in the room. I personally deeply appreciate fine arts, literature, and journalism. Moreover, I believe it makes us more permeable and transparent to our surroundings. But if a creator's work is provoking, it requires proper censorship. And the reason why it requires to be inspected is because it might stir up an ugly argument or it might target a conventional norm. To elaborate on the same, art, literature, and journalism go through proper inspections. They go through proper inspections. They go through proper judicial proceedings. And they are seen from multiple perspectives before they are being suspended or before they are presented to the public at large. So, censoring of movies and reviewing of art, literature, or journalism for that matter is completely justified. I think I've answered your question.
Okay. Manjyot, I know you want to go for cross questioning, but Nandita, my question to you is you spoke about censoring the movie. Isn't that also a restriction on freedom of speech?
Thank you for your question. Freedom of speech, movies and cinema. What is it basically? It is expression of. It is freedom of you expressing yourself. It is freedom of you expressing yourself through words, through pictures, through images. And if it is not restricted, if it is not censored, if it is not reviewed before it is made public to a whole lot more people, it might trigger. It might trigger someone out there. It might trigger not only an individual, it might trigger a community as a whole. And if it triggers a community as a whole, since we know we are a secular, we are a sovereign, and we are a democratic country with 138 crore occupants, the result is basically massacres, the result is basically riots, uproar of rampages. So that justifies why cinema or movies should be reviewed.
Okay. And Manjyot, would you like to do a cross question to that?
No, thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'm pretty sure I can throw around a few cross questions, but it'll go on and go, so on and so forth. So, no problem. So, good points, Nandita. Some heavy hitting points, and you were well within timeline. So, congratulations. Kudos to that. All right. So I'm sure the judges will mark you accordingly. So the next contestant for the motion is Manreet. Manreet, where's Manreet? There she is. Hi, Manreet.
Hi, sir.
Hi. Please begin, Manreet. Manreet.
Man, as a rational being, desires to do many things. But in a civil society, he has to be controlled, regulated, and reconciled with the exercise similarly desired by other individuals. If people were given the complete and absolute liberty without any social control or restrictions, believe me, the results would be devastating. Liberty has got to be limited in order to be effectively possessed. A very good evening. This is Manreet representing Woodland Overseas School, Hoshiarpur, Punjab. And I am speaking in the motion that yes, the restrictions placed on freedom of speech are completely justified. In the Constitution of India, the restrictions on Clause 1 of Article 19 are enumerated in the Clause 2 to 6 of the same article. Clause 2 was amended by the First and 16th Amendment to the Constitution in 1951 and 1953, enabling the legislature to put in restrictions on freedom of speech and expressions based on 8 grounds that included sovereignty and integrity of India, security of state, defamation, public order, friendly relations with other states, contempt of court, and incitement to an offense. The Constituent Assembly of India debated on the freedom and speech of expression on 1st and 2nd of December in 1948 and then later on 17th of October in 1949. Most of the members of the Constituent Assembly welcomed the inclusion of the right. However, conflicts did emerge around the provision of article that placed restrictions on the right. While some members opposed it, there were many others who supported it. And the members who supported the argument have 3 main reasons. First, that when the amendments were made, India was no longer under a colonial rule. Second, that there is absolutely no place in the world where the freedom of speech should be absolute. And third, that the law and order and security of the state cannot be compromised. Freedom of speech is very subjective. It depends upon the country, on the culture, religious tolerance, and the ease with which people can take it. Let's talk about America, where the number of restrictions are very less. That is basically because people are willing to express themselves. And more importantly, they're ready to listen, tolerate, and patiently listen to what the other has to say. In Kishori Mohan versus the State of Bengal case, the Supreme Court clearly explained that anything that disturbs the public peace or public tranquility disturbs the public order. A law punishing the utterance deliberately tending to hurt the religious feelings of the community was held to be valid, as it is a reasonable restriction aimed to maintaining the public order. In this country, we get angry if a tree is fallen on our way to the office just because we think we'll be a few minutes late. Can you just imagine using hate as a weapon of communication? You drag people's religion with disrespect, you abuse them, you defame them, and then you try to get away with it just saying that it's your freedom of speech? Do you think that's a valid argument? Isn't that simply silly to get away with? The reality is that nowhere in the world the freedom of speech is absolute. And the reason is, one main reason is that there are few fragile elements who are trying to hijack the course and discourse of the entire nation using hate, the worst form of abuse, both publicly and privately, and hijacking the national agenda as a whole. You cannot have a situation where the right and the democracy without restrictions, because then, my dear friends, that very own democracy will shatter within days. You live in a country that's free. You live in a country where you have freedom. But everybody must understand that their freedom comes with responsibility. You and I may be Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims, but we're Indians first and we're Indians last. I'm not talking about patriotism, something that's the last refuge of a scoundrel. I am talking of an ideology that we call nationalism. Let's not sacrifice the future of a country for cliches like absolute freedom, because then we will do ourselves the greatest disservice. We are born in a free land, in a free nation. Let's respect that freedom with responsibility. Cherish your freedom, but don't cherish it to an extent that you abuse somebody else's sensitive ways. Thank you.
Wonderful. So you mentioned absolute freedom. So there's a famous quote by Lord Acton that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So in terms of that, now let me open the floor for interjection. So yes, Adya, very quick to raise the hand. Let's go, Adya.
So, with the due respect of the moderator, Sir Himanshu, I would like to question Manreet. First of all, hi Manreet.
First, let me clarify. I have not been assigned a title of Sir Himanshu as of yet. I have not been knighted. Okay, so let me clear that up. All right, Adya, please proceed.
Okay. So, hi Manreet.
Hi,
I
Adya.
heard your argument, and your argument was a perfect definition for restrictions on speech, freedom of speech. But I was hardly able to find any justification for so. And the topic is restriction on freedom of speech, not in India. And restrictions does not mean right to freedom of speech. The restrictions on the right to freedom of speech. We are talking about general restrictions. So I heard that you were generalizing the right to freedom of speech for other restrictions too, and you were good to point out that it's only in India that we have restrictions, that we have misuse of these restrictions, while you pacified the views of other countries where there are cases in cases of mass massacre like the black
Hold up. Adya.
matter.
Adya, hold up. She never mentioned only in India though, because
Yeah.
I was listening to her very clearly.
So she said,
No, and she specifically mentioned that there is no absolute freedom of speech anywhere in the world.
I did justify India at a few places, but that does
Yeah.
not mean that I was talking just about India.
And you are making a statement out there. I want you to take a fact and then interject. That's what happens in interjection. Not a
Okay,
vague statement, darling. Just a fact with a question.
okay, sir, certainly. So, Manreet, you said that in a democracy, you are exploiting your democracy when you are using your freedom of speech. But don't you think that in a democracy, when you have vested the government with ample of freedoms, with governing its people, then don't you think there should be a counter feedback from the people through their freedom of speech?
I just want to clarify, Adya. I mentioned that you shatter your democracy when you're practicing absolute freedom. I very clearly mentioned that we are living in a free country. We're living in a free world where we do have a freedom of speech. And I don't think anybody present right now, or me myself, is against the freedom of speech. The topic very well says the restrictions in the freedom of speech. Nobody here is presenting their views of whether there should be freedom of speech or not. I very clearly mentioned that if the restrictions are not taken in care, or if you are implementing clear absolute freedom and you allow people to do and say whatever they wish and do, that's when the democracy is going to shatter. Be it in the way public says, or be it the absolute freedom of government. If the government practices absolute freedom, the democracy is left nowhere. If the public practices absolute freedom, there will be no peace and justice, and ultimately the politics, especially in country like ours, if you're questioning, is very well eager to involve into riots and firing them up more.
Let me quickly barge in. Let me quickly interject in between. You have crossed your time. It is almost touching 8 minutes now. But also, I think so, Manreet, you jumped the gun on her interjection, because I know Sanjay Dewangan sir was also having this confused look, because what she asked was the feedback mechanism, and what you replied was something else.
She initially asked that if I was trying to clear her point of view where she initially asked that the democracy would be shattered. Yes, the feedback is required, but it does not mean that the restrictions cannot be placed on your freedom. You can present your feedback, staying in limits in a valid way, understanding your responsibility. Giving back your freedom does not mean you have to cross some limits or you have to abuse or use harsh words. Restricting the freedom of speech nowhere interferes in giving back your freedom if you're practicing a true democracy.
Okay, wonderful. So, does that answer your question, Adya? Well, we have already gone over 9 points. I'm pretty sure you must have a cross argument as well ready. So, I can't indulge in that, even though I would love to. All right, so next debater we have with us is Ishita Goyal. She's from Laurels School International, Indore. Ishita, over to you. I hope your internet is fixed now.
Yeah, it is.
All right, darling, take the floor.
Freedom of speech is not a license to abuse, but a responsibility. Freedom of speech without any concern for good human behavior would be a disaster for any society, quotes Dr. Mohammed, which proves how freedom of speech should be imposed with certain restrictions. Greetings, everyone. I am Ishita Goyal from Laurels School International, Indore, Madhya Pradesh, and I will speak for the motion is restriction on freedom of speech justified. Freedom of speech is a principle that supports the freedom of an individual or a community to articulate their opinions and ideas without fear of retaliation, censorship, or legal sanction. Freedom of expression is recognized as a human right under Article 19(1)(a) of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and in the International Human Rights Law in the ICCPR. Article 19 of the UDHR states that everyone shall have the right to hold opinions without interference.
And let me interfere just in between, Ashita. I can read the script on your glasses.
Same thing I wanted to say. Script is there in your glass.
So
It is reflecting.
The screen of the laptop, I don't know why you guys feel so.
It is very clearly, I can see there's a small window right in the middle. It's
And
okay.
it is
You to show you that it's not
like you will be marked accordingly.
Don't get nervous,
Nah,
but
don't
it is
get nervous.
reflecting on your glass.
Yeah. So
it's a full screen, I think.
So no problem. I just wanted to point it out because it'll be unfair with other contestants. I'm sure, but my educators, they've been dealing with kids all their life, so they know what to do and how to judge accordingly. So no problem, Ishita, you can continue.
Yeah, okay. So I was telling that the Article 19 of the UDHR states that everyone shall have the right to hold opinions without interference, and everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. The right shall include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally or in writing or in print, in form of art or any other choice. In Indian Express newspapers versus Union of India, the court confirmed that freedom of press plays a very important role in the proper functioning of the democracy, deriving its roots from straight Article 19(1)(a), and the democracy it's the duty of the court to uphold freedom of the press. It is not an absolute right, and the democracy has developed some system of limitations on freedom of expression. Article 19(2) stated that exercise of these rights carries special duties and responsibilities and may therefore be subject to certain restrictions when necessary for respect of the rights or reputations of others or of public health or morals. This article empowers states to impose restrictions on the grounds of security of the state, morality of the country, integrity or sovereignty of the country, friendly relations with other states, public order, decency or morality, contempt to court, defamation or incitement to an offense. I would like to say that the restrictions have been imposed so that no individual misinterprets his or her rights and speaks against or accuses the country. The individual and the rights of the individual should not be used against the country, and the individual of a community should not be accepted to reasonable restrictions and should be imposed on it. And these restrictions are put up to avoid conflicts with other rights and freedoms in cases of libel, slander, pornography, copyright violation, fighting words, etc. Recently, in a landmark judgment of the Supreme Court, a noted advocate, Prashant Bhushan, was held guilty of contempt of court on August 14 for tweets against President amounted to a malicious attack on apex court and established the foundation of judiciary. he was sentenced to a rupees 1 fine in the contempt of court case, and he would be jailed for 3 months and barred for practicing for 3 years if he failed to pay so. It has been seen in an attempt to quash reasonable dissent. Later in that day, Bhushan released a detailed reserving his right to seek a review of the conviction, respectfully pay the fine as he would have submitted to any other criminal offense. Also, the Delhi police filed a charge against a former Jawaharlal Nehru student for delivering seditious hate speeches and inciting a particular section of the community to indulge in unlawful.
Your time.
Yeah.
Kindly take care of your time. You
Yeah,
exceeded.
I was about to say that.
To sovereignty and integrity of the nation. He was arrested by a special cell of Delhi police in the case under anti-terror law, and he was also blamed for premeditated conspiracy in connection to the riots of Northeast Delhi during the protest of CAA Act. These are the cases where absence or negligence of restrictions was harm to the internal security and dignity of government and led to a harm of security of the public. If the freedom of speech and expression would have been absolute, then the people would have got full liberty to curtail other citizens' rights. The purpose of law and rule would go into vain, and person would have got liberty to speak anything against the security of nation.
Ishita, 40 seconds left.
That harms the unity of nation and anything that could bring down the reputation of the very own high institution, this country. I would like to conclude by saying that the citizens of India are guaranteed to the right of freedom of speech and expression, but reasonable restrictions should be imposed on it to act as a rider of this right. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Since we do not have any time left for interjection.
I'm sorry for the time thing. I think that the thing came up in between for the reading part. That's why I see the
Well, the thing came up in between for the reading part because we let's not go over there. So since we do not have any time left, now let's move on for against the motion category. Now the first, let's see, is the grass greener on the other side? So before we begin, before I go with Adya, who will be our first contestant from Convent of Jesus and Mary, let me quickly remind you, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to stay regular updated. I know I forgot. In case you haven't subscribed, we have awesome debates, awesome quiz competitions, everything going on, many activities for our viewers. And lucky viewers, such as yourself, my subscribers, you get to not only interact with the jury members, with the fellow contestants, but you also get to win certain prizes and certificates. So you can read about all of that in the description box. So Adya, over to you.
Okay, so now that I think that the subscribers have clicked the red button, I'll start with my argument.
I'm so sorry, Adya, but I had to do that.
Think of being guaranteed a chocolate cake but without chocolate, or a tap without water. Now think of being guaranteed freedom without freedom. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, respected jury, and my fellow debaters. I, Adya Jasola of Convent of Jesus and Mary, Dehradun, am grateful to Entab to give me this opportunity to express my passionate views against the topic, that is restriction on freedom of speech by any implement justified. I am not okay with being denied something that was idealized and promised me for 16 years. What started as the freedom of speech soon became the freedom from speech. Article 19, Section 1A of the Constitution of India states that all citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression, but with a small asterisk on top and TNC applied. To alter and fabricate the linguistics of an individual is mockery at the face of freedom. The problem of limitation on speech is extraordinarily old, silencing not only what is wrong, but also revolutionary. Galileo was tortured for saying the earth moves around the sun. Giordano Bruno was burnt for the same. The 2015 documentary, India's Daughter, about the heart-wrenching Delhi gang rape, was banned for it posed defamation to the state. Censorship has tainted books. No wonder we still mourn at the loss of Nalanda University. The so-called freedom of speech has hounded artists, journalists, activists in the pretext of safeguarding communal harmony. I can no longer see plunderers of our country in my textbooks being called great and the real great being out of syllabus. I want the truth for my family, my friends, my environment, even if it offends. Reported by the Rights and Risk Analysis Group, in just 3 months, a total of 55 journalists faced arrest, physical assault, threat, and destruction of property, exercising freedom of speech and opinion. If putting forward opinions had been insulting, ladies and gentlemen, you and I wouldn't be here debating. Restriction on freedom of speech is not justified because of its misuse. According to the National Crime Record Bureau, from 2015 to 2018, a total of 191 cases were registered for sedition, out of which 43 cases were complete. Now, only 4 were convicted. About 7% of Muslim population in Xinjiang, China, has been incarcerated in an expanded network of political reduction. If a person exercises the freedom of speech and says something that is not even distasteful, yet he or she can be arrested on the basis of a fairy tale. Mark my words, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody likes restriction on their freedom of speech. It's the others which bother them. Restriction on freedom of speech neat shields controversial ideas and allows them to bleed underground, and this time with reverberations. Free speech is necessary because bad ideas should be put forward. Bad ideas should be put forward to be defeated by good ideas and not banned by censorship. With the coming generations, restrictions have taken an unusual form of media censorship and inorganic trigger warnings. People are sensitized to assertive speech. In the world's oldest democracy, the Washington Post says 40% of Americans under age 35 think that the First Amendment Act, which guarantees right to freedom of speech and expression, is dangerous. Why dangerous? Because you might use your freedom of speech to hurt somebody else's feelings. Listeners are turning into bundle of nerves. Universities are coming up with speech guides, and words like "where are you from" are being banned for implying that you are a foreigner. Instead of freedom of speech, people are demanding right to always feel comfortable. People lack tolerance and political schemes exploit their impatience. We need to understand that 7 billion people are diversified by opinion, thoughts, culture, races, boundaries, and oceans. But one thing which unifies them is speech. Free speech is confrontation to wrong and introspection for right. Freedom of speech is not just an opportunity, it is a responsibility. And fighting responsibility does not make you sensitive or thoughtful, it just makes you irresponsible. Supporting rights does not support criminal offenses. When an act falls in the degree of a criminal offense, it is a bomb. But until we instigate free speech, we imply that we do not trust our people to deal with violent and provocative ideas. Freedom of true speech is a safety valve that lets out the steam when people are bent on revolution and violence. Indictment and repression of such actions does not justify the idea of liberty, but celebrates totalitarianism. I feel I fear the time when we will have little Mussolinis running on the street, controlling the people. This time with no better prospects of jurisdiction, but only better prospects of hair. The world is not in its best condition. How long can we smoke screen the idea of good and bad with this sinister attitude of concealing speech? In the end, I would like to conclude with the words of George Washington. If freedom of speech is taken away, then we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. Thank you.
Beautiful, man. Very nice quote in the end by Honest Abe. All right. So quickly, we have only 1 minute left. So any interjections? Ishita, go on.
You said that no one likes being their freedom of speech taken away. So who would like that one person is using their freedom of speech to offend someone else or to say something bad about someone else?
Okay, so I would like to answer the
If the
question with
restrictions are not put upon it.
I'm sorry, what?
If the restrictions are not put upon it.
Okay, okay. So I would like to answer your question with due permission of Sir Himanshu, that you said that the freedom of speech, nobody likes, that people do not, no, I said that nobody likes restriction on their freedom of speech. And you think that people don't like restriction on one person's freedom of speech and not the others. So don't you signify your proposition that freedom of speech is only restricted for masses? Yes.
Let her speak, Ishita, first.
So don't you signify that the freedom of speech, the restrictions on the freedom of speech is only to a certain section of the society, the cream which obeys the laws and they don't have the right to speak? And please, if one person doesn't like their freedom of speech and like the other person's freedom of speech, then I said you and I wouldn't be here debating. The opportunity to interject is for everybody.
Okay. Ishita, cross question.
Yeah, you misinterpreted my question. I think you thought that I was saying that one person wouldn't like another one's freedom of speech. I meant to say that if one person is using their freedom of speech to say something ill against some another person, then don't you think some restrictions, reasonable restrictions, should be put up on it to avoid that? Because
The
one
best-
person saying anything to the another, it can be severely effective on the another person. So what do you
Certainly. But have you heard about the Hindi idiom? I'd use its translation that iron cuts iron. You don't put restrictions on freedom of speech to repress speech. It only draws it underground. If speech has tainted your feelings, then you are supposed to reply, not restrict.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. All right. No problem, Ishita. Adya, I must say,
Yes, sir.
very strong points. And dude, you have a lot of supporters in the live chat. I mean, people are spamming my live chat for you. So from Aditi to Annie to OS and then Praveen, Vanshika, they've been spamming. Very well done, Adya. All the participants are good, but Adya is the best. So you've got ardent supporters.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Adya. All right, moving forward to our next contestant, we have Manjyot. Manjyot, where is she? Okay, there she is. Hi, Manjyot.
Hi, sir.
So the stage is all yours, darling. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our life begins to end the moment we become silent about things that really matter. Good evening. I'm Manjyot from Woodland Overseas School, Hoshiarpur, Punjab, is here to put my views against the motion. Is restriction on freedom of speech justified? Did you know the literal meaning of the term freedom is the right or power to act, think, and speak as one wants? I think we're incredibly lucky to be living in a country where we have something called the Article 19, which implies every citizen has the right to express their views and opinions freely because the framers of the Constitution were well aware of the fact that free speech is the best friend of change and revolution. As a matter of fact, such a right does not exist willy-nilly across the world. It is exceedingly rare. According to Freedom House, a global monitor of human rights, only 13% of the world's population lives in countries protecting freedom of speech. In North Korea, the world's most censored country, all thanks to restriction of freedom of speech, all news is positive. According to the country's rigidly controlled media, nothing ever wrong ever happens, be it the catastrophic famine of 1990s killing over millions in North Korea. Everything is said to be nothing but just a clear white lie. I completely understand the concern of my fellow debaters that certain ideas or opinions might offend a portion of society. But given that there are over 7 billion people on this earth and such varied perspectives, how sure are you that what you want to express won't offend someone? So offending someone is almost inevitable. But one thing, we cannot bring down hate speech by more hate or anger. It must be countered by love, affection, and understanding. Debate, dialogue, and discussion are the very first step to achieve societal progress. Hence, being able to argue with someone respectfully, even if they have awful, hateful, repulsive ideas, is the true spirit of freedom of expression. It's high time that we, the youth of this country, realize that education is not about understanding that Hitler killed 6 million Jews. Education is about understanding what convinced millions of Germans that that was required. Education is about spotting the signs of history repeating itself. Every dictator rises to power, climbing the ladder of freedom of speech, and immediately on getting power, suppresses it. It is the principal pillar of democracy. Therefore, to announce there must not be any criticism of the government or that we are supposed to stand by it, right or wrong, is not just unpatriotic and surreal, but something that distinguishes us from dictatorships where differences are settled by sword, not by words. In a nutshell, I would like to conclude that freedom of expression is the basis of human rights. It is the root of human nature and mother of truth. To kill or suppress freedom of speech is to insult human rights, to stifle human nature and suppress the truth. Let's not forget that the best antidote to all kinds of offensive or hateful speech is intelligent, persuasive, and nuanced speech. Today, you and I are here on this lovely platform pouring our hearts out because we are privileged to have freedom of speech. And that is why I'm a big advocate of freedom of speech. Think about it. The sun is free to rise. The moon is free to shine. The wind is free to blow. The air is free to flow. Then why voice below? Then why voice below? Thank you.
Wow. Nice. So let me quickly, because the time is short now. So who would like to interject? Guys, who would like to interject? Her? Nobody? Yeah, Nandita, go on.
First of all, Manjyot, you were phenomenal. Well, now coming to my question, in a country like India, where we are a diverse country and we have so many religious sects coming together, how do you justify that absolute freedom of speech? Or in a country like India, where there might not, if we see a possibility of no curtailments, how do you justify that it might not lead to uproar of riots or rampage?
I absolutely understand your question, Nandita. I think what one factor is that what I firmly believe on the fact that I understand is there's so many perspectives in India that just I was talking about. But what I think is that curbing them up or, preventing riots by not allowing people to speak or put their hearts out will actually lead to long-time turmoil. If they won't talk it out today, or if we won't permit certain sections to be speaking out today, I think at some point there must be a feeling of frustration or alienation, which I think can do more harm. It might even lead to a civil war. So it's better is that when people talk out, I completely understand. Sometimes it's cyberbullying, sometimes it's trolling in the media. But the best way to handle that out is try to educate people on the topic of why certain things work certain way, rather than asking them to be quiet. There is a complete threat that something might happen, but a bigger danger can actually happen if we don't allow them to speak. Suppression will come down like a volcano someday. That's what I feel. I hope I answered your question.
Well, if we have to go by what George Orwell said, that if liberty means anything at all, right? If liberty means anything at all, then the right to tell people, it is the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Exactly, sir. If we don't believe in freedom of speech at all, if we don't give it to people whom we despise or people whom we think we don't like them, people if we don't disagree with those people, if we don't give them the freedom of speech, then we don't believe in it at all. There is no
Absolutely.
point of having it there.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, sir.
So, no problem. I understand your feelings. All right. So, let's move on to the last but not the least contestant. She's been waiting very eagerly and very patiently. Anushka, over to you. Anushka, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
All right, Anushka. The stage is all yours. Take it away.
Freedom of speech is a principle. The constitution of a free society is dissolved and tyranny gets erected on its ruins. Greetings to the chairperson and eminent judges. I am Anushka Singh of class 12, representing Laurels School International. I am speaking against the motion of the topic. Are restrictions under the freedom of speech and expression justified? And I strongly believe that restrictions under the freedom of speech and expression is not justified. Freedom of speech and expression is not important to democracy. Rather, it is democracy. Freedom of speech and expression is the most vital and integral part under the fundamental rights guaranteed to a citizen. A constitution without fundamental rights is just like a body without soul. India guarantees freedom of speech and expression to its citizens under Article 19(1)(a), which subject to some restrictions under Article 19(2). The reason for implementation of these restrictions was to prevent the abuse of those rights at the hands of the citizens. Now, my question to you is that those grounds of restrictions cannot be abused by the state? The answer is definitely yes. The instances from the past and present prove this point every now and then. The Lady Justitia that holds the beam balance symbolizes balance of power. And if the abuse of rights at the hands of citizens causes imbalance, then the abuse of those grounds of restrictions at the hands of citizens does not cause imbalance. The government on many occasions, acting through the police, has removed peaceful protests under the constitutional cloak of restrictions. There have been many instances where the government has propagated hate speech and influenced a particular community to get undue advantages in their vote banks. So why are the restrictions biased towards the government? In 1984, when Indira Gandhi was assassinated, two public servants were found chanting the slogan Khalistan Zindabad. The Supreme Court in this case ruled that the slogans were in no way qualified under the restrictions of freedom of speech and expression, as the public were unaffected by the slogans, rather, they were busy in carrying out their normal day activities. I would like to explain you this by another example. The passing of a controversial Maintenance of Internal Security Act by Indira Gandhi government, which gave authority to all the enforcing agencies to arrest any person, even without trial, if they spoke anything against the government. Do you find any difference between the scenario then and now? The fourth pillar of our democracy, the press, is no exception. The press has been used as a mere tool at the hands of the government to popularize its so-called good government. If press criticizes the policies of the government, then the journalist would be charged with umpteen number of allegations under the cover that it would be a threat to public order. L.K. Advani, during the emergency rule of Indira Gandhi, noted that the press is crawling rather than bending itself, and the situation is still relevant in the present scenario. During the pandemic, the government imposed censorship upon the press, and the reason for implementation of the same as given by the government was to prevent a panic situation in the public and to maintain public order. But the reality was way too far. The actual intentions was to maintain the popularity of the government by bearing the media to show neutral news and to go in the favor of the government. Recently, a heinous crime and murder against a young woman in Hathras has shivered the spine of the jurisprudence. The press was not even allowed to investigate and was even barred from even entering the village. This was the violation of freedom of press at the highest bizarre abuse of law. The Constitution at its heart is a historical document. There is a huge difference between the conditions which were there pre-independence and the conditions which are now. The Britishers had sown the seed of communalism in Indian society.
2 minutes
And the
left.
constitution makers were very meticulous by putting out the restrictions to the freedom of speech and expression to prevent the society from communal riots and with some insecurities that whether we would come together as a nation state or not. And as rightly said by Advocate Meera Sood, but relying on those insecurities today, I think there's a disservice to the intention of the framer. Does disservice to the intention that the framers of the Constitution had. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to the Bill of Rights was to enforce the idea of absolute freedom of speech and expression. Against this, the First Amendment to the Indian Constitution was to add more grounds of restriction on the freedom of speech and expression. The news channels during the presidential elections boldly put forward their opinions against the Trump administration and had the full right to do so. Had it been in India, the situation would be different. Dissent would automatically bring out consent. This is the high time that the establishment should realize that a society has different points of views and each point of view should be recognized and respected. Else, the term fraternity that is mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution would be nothing but a dead idea. Let's not fail the purpose of the Constitution and should not break the wall of the democracy above which the supreme law of land prevails. Thank you.
Whoa. All right. So, anybody would like to interject? And please do so very quickly because only 30 seconds are left. Yeah, Manreet, I know you want to interject. You've been raising your hand since a very long time. All right, Manreet, go on.
Hi, Anushka. I just want to, you mentioned about censorship. You mentioned amid the pandemic situation that it was imposed so that it doesn't cause any panic, but the people or the government particularly misused it. Don't you think, let's agree to a point that the government did misuse it to a point, but don't you think if it would not have been imposed, there were actually many panic messages that started with the lockdown and which were really hypering in this situation? Had it not been imposed, the condition would have been more worse.
Yes, I totally agree with you. But the point is that everyone has got the right to know. And citizens of India cannot be deprived of the factual conditions that are going on the country right now for the sake that a panic situation is created. As freedom of press, as freedom of speech and expression also contains right to know. It is inclusive definition. So, if the people are deprived about the cases of how many number of COVID-19 cases are there, as we have seen live examples also that the people were so free that they went outside. And if the real situation was revealed, then they would have a fear of COVID-19 and they would stay inside their homes and be protected.
I guess the numbers that started with the COVID-19 were really alarming, and anybody who really were concerned for the health would stay inside. But then you again said that people were deprived of their right to know. But don't you think that if it would have been like no censorship, there would have been things that really people should not be doing and simply hypering them up, giving them a false situation, something that was not even there?
Yes, I really agree with you, but because of that, we cannot deprive the right of the citizens to know.
Do you think we can create a situation which is more worse?
Let me clear that up for you, Manreet. And the whole reason why COVID-19 became a pandemic was because of censorship. How about that? I know it was not my point to say, Manreet, but we had crossed over time. The educators, I know for a fact, will not take that into account. But yeah, censorship is to art what lynching is to justice. So, freedom of speech, you cannot expect to restrict freedom of speech. The whole reason of the whole concept of whistleblowing and everything has come forward because of restriction on freedom of speech. So, while Sanjay sir and Alka ma'am are going to take care of the, let's say, क्या बोलते हैं, scores. So, I'm so sorry, I missed the word. So, I will quickly play a video for all my lovely subscribers. Don't go anywhere. Sanjay sir and Alka ma'am is not there. Maybe you can give a call, Sanjay sir, to her for the scores, and then You can tally with my team and everything on WhatsApp, send us the score, who do you think have won, and so on and so forth. So my team will get back to you. You guys can, contestants can mute off your, switch off your video for 1.5 minutes. I'm going to play a quick video for my subscribers. So, all right, there we go.
Entab is an educational technology company that has been delivering solutions since 2000 to improve the productivity, efficiency, and reputation of a good school and transform it into the best school. We understand the problems schools face while managing various activities, so we endeavor to automate and simplify their tasks. Besides 100% accountability and communication, safety, security, and stability are also vital. The speed, accuracy of the information and the dependability on the service providers ensures a smile on the faces of the customers. Long association of schools, repeated sales, reference sales, and delivering as an innovator in the education domain. The new philosophy of the company is to look for new, next, and better in every area. Go green, go Entab. Entab is an educational technology company that has been delivering solutions since 2000 to improve the productivity, efficiency, and reputation of a good school and transform it into the best school. We understand the problems schools face while managing various activities, so we endeavor to automate and simplify their tasks. Besides 100% accountability and communication, safety, security, and stability are also vital. The speed, accuracy of the information and the dependability on the service providers ensures a smile on the faces of the customers. Long association of schools, repeated sales, reference sales, and delivering as an innovator in the education domain. The new philosophy of the company is to look for new, next, and better in every area. Go green, go Entab.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hey guys, what's up? And Sanjay sir, over to you.
Oh, nice, Himanshu. It was really a very excellent, to see the very young chap Indians debating. So, dear students, winning and losing is a secondary part. Waiting for a score. I know that you are very eager about the result, but you all are winner. You have done excellent, fabulous, and kind of a flow. I saw a session was really very excellent, especially Nandita. Very good time, nice delivery, nice content, and everything was excellent. So, and Manreet, very good, good time, good content, and the way you try to put your points and you yourself claim that this is only the right thing. What I am going to tell is right in debate. It is the only thing that you need to claim yourself. I am the only person who is telling right thing, and you need to justify yourself. Yes, this is the only truth, and this to be implemented. Though it is the matter of a debate, so pros and cons goes parallelly. Both are right. Restrictions should be there. Restrictions should not be there. I am not in that matter whether restrictions should be there. Restrictions should not be there. I am here to listen to all of you. Okay, and I enjoyed a lot. And really, you were excellent. And then definitely, time to come, you will prove yourself a good leader. And then here Ishita, sorry, my dear Ishita, some thing which I assumed like that you are reading because your spec was reflecting that your laptop screen. So and you took time also little longer time, and which was against the rule. So but your content was good and all facts you brought about the everything, the informative, and everything was very good. And hoping that you have to practice how to debate, how to, bring in your mind all such contents when topic is given. So this is very, very important. Against the motion, I really find, Adya and Manjyot, Anushka, all three, against the motion, they were very fiery, and the all contestants were really very strong. So it's very difficult to judge them who are the best among them. So in my point of view, all were very good. So Adya, your timing, your content, the debate, the kind of
Gestures.
debatable, logics were very good, and even interjection I found very nice. And Manjot, the way interjecting the things was really excellent. Anushka, you have done fabulous, very good. All of you have done very excellent, and hope that in future also you will be participating in the same manner. I appreciate the initiative of Entab, bringing you all and giving you this kind of a platform back to in this pandemic when every one of you in lockdown condition and very difficult to come out, but in a virtual platform you all are getting such opportunity. You must thank Entab that giving you opportunity to hone your skills, and this is a really good platform. So I salute Himanshu ji
Thank
and
you,
your
sir.
team. You are doing excellent and great in this pandemic time and giving kind of energy to our students. Really very good. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the lovely words as always. Absolutely honor and pleasure to host you as usual. Alka ma'am, over to you.
Well, Himanshu, I think it was a very, very enjoyable evening. I think it was wonderful to hear all these young speakers speak so vociferously and so well, and they came up with their content exceptionally well. The speaking skills also was absolutely wonderful. Most of them, out of the six, I think four of them were excellent. The other two need some time to hone their skills, but I'm sure they are on the right path. And like Sir just now said, with people like you, with people like your company, I'm sure they will get more chance and more opportunities to hone their skills and move forward. Amongst the, if you really ask me to sum up today's program in terms of the viewpoint, there is no doubt that the people who were speaking against the motion had a lot more fire
Yeah.
because the topic has more fire.
Fire, right.
And the ones who were speaking for the motion, it was the path of non-violence. So it was naturally very good. And amongst the speakers who spoke for the topic, for the motion, I think the first speaker was excellent. And she was Nandita Sharma.
Nandita,
I
right.
found her exceptionally good. Amongst the children who spoke against the motion, Adya, of course, was very good. Manjyot Saini was good. And Anushka Singh was also good. But I think the total marks of both the judges will find the winners.
I have both of them, by the way, so I know who the winners are.
So I think we all know who the winners are.
Right,
But,
exactly.
but they were very good. And even those who do not win today, I have a message for them. Please do not lose hope. Do not lose confidence. Keep on this fight. You will win someday. And you have all that takes to be a good speaker. You can debate well. And any topic you are given, you will be able to debate well. So all the best for your future. Hope to see you more often on bigger platforms and as national speakers. Somebody like Shashi Tharoor Sahab is a wonderful speaker
Oh, yeah.
of English, and we need to learn a thing or two from him. But I'm sure all of them are on the right path. Thank you so much for having me here as one of the jury.
So, as Oscar Wilde and S.G. Talent has often said, that I may not agree with you, but I will fight to the death to protect your
Yes.
right to say it. So,
Yes.
we have the winners for our debate, and for the motion, it's none other than already pointed out by ma'am, by sir, by me. Nandita Sharma. So, congratulations, Nandita. And to the lady who knighted me without even me being actually knighted. So, first, Adya, I would request you to please ask my lovely people, the viewers, to subscribe to my channel.
Okay, so everybody who's watching, you have to. You have to. I stick with the fact that you have to subscribe to Entab eCare and to Sir Himanshu.
To Sir Himanshu Virse.
Yes, to Sir Himanshu.
Okay.
All right.
Except
Subscription of Himanshu is possible. Subscription of Himanshu, you are in.
Yes, sir. All right.
Yes.
So, for against the motion, we have Adya as the winner. Of course, her poise, the way she concluded, her gestures, I was myself flabbergasted and mesmerized. So, congratulations to the winner. And thank you so much, Sanjay sir, with your lovely smile, your dapper attire as always. Thank you for the quiz and thank you for the debate. And Alka ma'am, with your lovely and kind words. It was wonderful evening to host each and every one of you. To Manreet, to Manjyot, to Ishita, to Anushka, thank you so much, guys. It was indeed a pleasure. And Manreet, just remember, censorship is to art what lynching is to injustice. All right? So, good night, take care, good evening, have a nice day. Thank you so much. And please subscribe to the channel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
congratulations to the winners.
Congratulations.
Thank you.